Ladies and gentlemen, Aaron Evans isn't just a player in the game. He's the force that shifts its very tides.
And now a chance, and it's gone in. A glimmer of hope. Aaron Evans wipes out Hyderabad's clean sheet.
Well, it certainly wasn't a defender's finish. That was as good as it gets for Aaron Evans.
Unbelievable. That's what I call class defending by Aaron Evans. He doesn't just see the game, he visualizes the unseen, turns the improbable into reality.
Evans making his mark, one game at a time.
Aaron Evans, what's good, brother? Welcome to the podcast. Thanks for taking the time, man.
Thanks for having me, Rick. Very, very happy to be here. It's good to finally get the time difference out of the way and be on the pod together.
Absolutely. Yeah. So can you just get into your journey a little bit? Tell us who you are, what position you play, where you're currently playing, your age, and we'll get into your journey.
Sure. So my name is Aaron Evans. I'm born in Australia, in the capital city of Australia called Canberra. I'm currently 28 years old. I was born in 1994. I am a professional football player. I have been this was my 9th year as a professional football player. So I started when I was 18 years old, and that is me. My position, I'm a centre back. Well, in Asia, when I moved away from Australia, I moved to play as a centre back, where I've done predominantly of my professional career. But throughout my junior career, my semi-professional career, and even the start of my professional career, I was a defensive midfielder. But I'm obviously a versatile player, so I can play defensive midfield, I can play right back, and then obviously in Asia, I've made my name as a centre back.
Wow, yeah, that's interesting. Why do you think that is? You think you just, tactical awareness, tactical knowledge, and then, not to offend that league or anything, that culture, but maybe you are regarded as a bigger player over there?
Yeah, so obviously me growing up playing as a defensive midfielder, I was very technical, very tactical, obviously had the engines, could run all day, didn't have the height on my side in terms of being in Australia. So obviously you get pushed around a little bit in terms of positions just based on height, because that's how the system works here in Australia. And yes, in terms of when I did move to Asia, I think I did get moved to be a centre back because of that reason. I was a little bit taller than them, obviously a lot bigger just in physique size to them. I'm a physical footballer. I've obviously got the tactical, got the technical, but I love to get stuck in. I'm the first person to get stuck in. I'm the last person to leave a leg in. Yeah. So I think that also helped in the sense that I could play as a centre back as well. The teams in Asia obviously like that, but also obviously throughout my career, when I've tried to, I guess, progress or develop or let's say move to a bigger country, bigger league, some of the teams or the countries have had a little bit of hesitation in terms of my height, which is fine. Like each to their own. Everybody obviously has their own opinion, but as you can see, some of the biggest teams in the world have small centre backs. So, like I say to them, if they're interested in me, you know what you're going to get with me. Okay, you might lack the height a little bit, but you'll get everything else plus more.
For sure.
So it's up to them.
For sure. Yeah, and obviously in today's modern game, I mean, coaches want center backs to be good on the ball, and not just clear the ball out. They want to play out of the back. So I think that makes total sense.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Couldn't agree more. And that obviously is my strength growing up playing as a defensive midfielder. I'm extremely confident on the ball. As you're aware, you play the game as well. In that position, everybody comes at you at 1,000,000 miles an hour. Then when I moved into centre back, I thought it would actually be quite a difficult position. But in my opinion, I actually find it a lot easier in terms of you don't have players coming from your blind side. You don't have players coming from your left or your right. They're basically really only coming from in front of you. Because in that centre back position, I guess you're the last line of defence. So you see everything happening before it happens. Whereas in midfield, as you know, you've got to have the scanning, you've got to have the body position, you've got to have all those things down pat, plus more to obviously thrive and be an elite athlete in that position.
Absolutely. Yeah, man. I mean, I want to get more into it, but let's dive into a little bit. When you started playing the game, your youth career, and how you made it through the ranks. I did some research on you. I saw you went through Hong Kong, you went through Indonesia, you went through Thailand. So lots of stops. So if you could just take us through, your youth career, when you started playing, and how you fell in love with the game.
Yeah, sure. So ever since I can remember, I loved football. It was always my dream to become a professional footballer. I have an older brother who's 18 months older than me, and he loved football as well. And my old man, my father, was heavily into his football. He's a Liverpool supporter.
Yeah.
My brother's a
Okay. Love it.
Manchester United supporter, and I'm an Arsenal supporter. So our
Wow.
household on the weekends
Yeah.
was insane.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, a lot of my love for the game obviously sprung from my father. He was, I like to describe it now as a very aggressive father in terms of wanting either of his two sons to be a football player. And obviously, when you're younger, you
For
think
sure.
it's a little bit negative, or you think it's like criticism or whatever. But obviously, once you become into an adult, you realize that he just sees or saw the potential in his two boys, and he just wanted the best out of his boys.
For sure.
So, growing up through my youth, he was basically always the reason I wanted to become a professional footballer one day. One, obviously, was to make him proud of me, but kind of it was
Yes.
also, and I tell him this, and I tell him all the time, it's kind of like a dig in the face to him is the polite way to say it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
yep, I've done it. I've done what you couldn't, and I've done what you thought I couldn't do.
Yeah.
It's a
It's that
motivate.
dark side
It's
motivation.
Of course, and that's
Yeah.
where I thrive, because obviously we'll go through the pod and I'll explain how and why, and you'll understand more as to why I thrive off those kind of situations. But yeah, anyway,
Hmm.
I got a little bit off topic. Back to what I was
No,
saying.
no
So
worries,
yeah,
man. Yeah.
loved football all my life. My brother, as I said, 18 months older than me. He was bigger than me. He was stronger than me. He was faster than me. But I was more technical. I had more of the mentality. I was more, let's say, the complete footballer. But I was a
Hmm.
very short boy and very skinny. So I
Hmm.
had to work really hard to, I guess, because Australia is a very physical country, even in football. So I had to learn to be aggressive, but against people who were twice my size and all that kind of stuff. So I grew up going through the ranks in my youth system of luckily or and thankfully being a part of the academy system. So how it works in Australia is each city has their own academy system. So for example, I was from Canberra, so it's called the ACT like academy team, and I was
Hmm.
lucky enough to get in that from under 10s and go all the way up to well, I did it for 4 years until under 14s, and then there's a development program called ACTAS, which is the ACT Academy of Sport. So you get on scholarship there. You're meant to, or eligibility wise, you're meant to get on that when you're about 16. But I guess because of my talent or advanced, I don't know, skills in the game at such a young age,
Hmm.
I was lucky enough to get into that at 14 years old.
Wow.
So I was, and again, I was around now players two, three times the size of me. And I think you know where I'm going with this, and hence why I'm
Yeah.
such a physical player nowadays. I had to
Yeah.
compete with them. So even if I knew I was technically better than them, and I was a coachable player, but they were better than me in everything else. I couldn't win a header. I couldn't tackle them.
Hmm.
I couldn't push them off the ball. If I had possession of the ball, I'd lose it because just the physicality side. Um, but obviously, I went through that stage at such a young career or such a young phase in my life that it's actually helped me in my senior career, because now obviously me being a centre back, I play against a foreign striker every single game. And
Yeah.
for me nowadays, I couldn't care if I play against a 2 meter tall massive fella or a person who's 180 and 90 kilos. Like, it doesn't bother me
Yeah.
anymore. I
Yeah.
love I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so after ACTAS, I actually got selected for the Australian under-19 national team to
Wow.
tour Australia, to tour Argentina and Brazil. That was fantastic. Loved it. So I did get picked there for being a central defensive midfielder and also as a right back.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so very interesting as to why they chose me for the two positions, but they did.
Yeah.
So yeah, obviously got to experience that at such a young age as well, and that obviously opens up your mind and you get to see the talent that's global, not just obviously in Australia.
Yes.
So that was fantastic. And then also following on from that, I've got an Australian passport, but I also have a Croatian passport because of my mother's side of the family is Croatian. So because of that, I obviously, my family has a few connections in Croatia in the football world. So at the age of 15, I actually moved to Croatia for about 4 or 5 months to train with Dinamo Zagreb, one of the biggest teams there. And I moved all on my own. Incredible.
Wow.
At 15 years old, completely different country, completely different language, all of that on your own. And I thought it was it. I thought, I've made it. I'm going to make it. I'm going to be Cristiano Ronaldo. I'm going to be Lionel Messi. I'm going to be Sergio Ramos. I'm going to be all of them. It's on.
Yeah.
And then my dream, my bubble, my balloon, whatever you want to call it, got popped, got shut down immediately because at the time I didn't actually have my Croatian passport, which meant, and also because I was under the age of 18, I wasn't allowed to sign a professional contract.
Yep.
And then obviously this is where it gets technical. So they go, okay, we'll sign you in the youth teams. But they couldn't sign me in the youth teams. And I was obviously distraught. At that age, you don't know how it works. You just think your world's over. So I had to come back to Australia and I thought, oh my God, what am I going to do? Like my football career's over, like it's done, all of this. So obviously I went through that kind of process as well. But I guess it worked out in my favor come to this day because I've went through all of these things before I'd even turned 18 years old. Hence why when I've gone into my professional career and can gladly sit here now and say my mind is nearly completely bulletproof, it is because I actually got to witness, go through these highs and lows, go through everything at such a young age that by the time I did inevitably turn pro, I already had it all. I had people saying yes to me. I had people saying no. I had this. I had that. I'd heard it all before I even became a professional footballer, and
100%.
it was incredible. So anyway, so I did those, and then going back to ACTAS, you get to a certain age, which is I think it's 17 years old, and you become uneligible for that anymore. So what happens? You either join the A-League here, which is the top division here in Australia, as a first team player, as a youth team player, or you go and play club football, which is classified as semi-professional. So I went to a few A-League clubs to do some trials with some youth teams. They weren't interested. I wasn't interested. Whatever. I decided not to go down that path. So what
How
I
was the
did,
level compared to, sorry to interrupt, but from A-League to Croatia? These
completely different. So firstly, in Croatia, it's like they live, they breathe it, everything in their 24-hour day was football. Whatever they were doing was based around football. And that's from, you could even go to the under-10s, you could go to the youth team, it doesn't matter what team you go to, every single one of them were football. Whereas when I was in Australia, it kind of felt like it was just still fun and games. And, natural talent or the boys that were there or that were on scholarship or that were in the A-League that were obviously of a young age, I felt like it was more like you're there because of who you know or if your dad's invested or stuff like that. So I also saw the politics here in Australia really young. Hence why, and you might ask this question later when I might already answer it, hence why I haven't played professionally in Australia, is because I saw all this politics growing up. Because obviously, and it's difficult when you get told as a young kid, oh, you're very talented, you're the best in the city, you're the best, blah, 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 blah. You kind of have that expectation, oh, okay, I'm going to get into the A-League with like the click of my fingers. And then when that didn't start to happen, I was like, hold on, like what's going on here? I've heard praise all my life. I haven't heard, like, obviously I've heard rejection, I've heard negativity, I've heard neglect, but it doesn't make sense. So yeah, I obviously went to a few youth league clubs. I wasn't interested, they weren't interested. So what I decided to do was I just decided to play local football. So in Canberra, I played for a club called Canberra, Croatia. Of course, there was only one club I was going to play with. It's half heritage, so of course, and also my brother played there, my first cousin played there, my other first cousin played there, and my other first cousin played there. So there were six of us in the starting 11 of this team. So it was fantastic. Loved it. But obviously, through that process, I still had that belief, and I still wanted, and I still knew that I could become a professional football player. But this was the time to, you know, get help. And what I mean by that is get help and outsource a manager or an agent or anything that I could do. And obviously, as I said at the start, my old man was such a support system. He helped me wherever he could. He was so supportive. My mother as well. So we tried to do everything to, you know, get me to my dream. So we outsourced an agent. Obviously, some are good, some are bad. As you know, you never know what to expect. So I ended up spending about 12 months at Canberra, Croatia. And through that process, obviously you have your days where you're like, yep, I'm motivated. Yep, I'm good. You get your other days where you're like, why am I doing this? I shouldn't be here. I'm better than my teammates, this league. What's going on? So obviously I had those individual battles that I had to deal with every day. And then on top of that, think you're becoming near 18 years old at this time. So you've got to get a job. You've got school. You've got all these other requirements that actually start to pull football and life apart from each other. But through all that process, although I felt at times I was getting pulled away, I kept on to the belief that football was the right thing for me throughout the whole process. And inevitably, I think that's also why I made it as well. Because growing up, there was still better players than me that didn't end up going on to football, that, you know, fell into a path of something else or a normal life or whatever, because they didn't have that drive. They didn't have that belief in themselves. Whereas I always did, always have, and always will have that. So that's probably my biggest factor as to why I am and have had the career that I've had. Was at that club for about 12 months. And then out of the blue, we played a semi-final on one Sunday evening in Canberra. We ended up winning the semi-final, so we're obviously into the final the next weekend. And then one of the many agents that I got in contact with gave me a call right after the game and goes, because he came down to watch the game, to obviously give me this kind of news. So he called me and he goes, "What are you doing?" And I go, "I've obviously just finished a football match. I'm going to go home." I think it was about 9 p.m. in the evening. He goes, "No, I think it's a good idea if you come to, like, we come to meet up now." And I was like, "It's 9:30 at night. I've just played football. I got school tomorrow. I got a final next weekend. Like, what's the urgency?" And he goes, No, I think it's in your best interest." So I got in the car, I said it to my dad, and my dad looked at me and he was like, "Yeah, we're going." And I was like, wouldn't you think it would be the other way around? And I was hold on, like, doesn't that sound a bit weird? Anyway, we ended up going to meet up with him, and all he had was some papers laid down on the table. And first I walked in and he goes, "Oh, congratulations." And I'm like, "Oh, thanks. Yeah, we won the semi-final. We're in the final for the next weekend." And he goes, No, not congratulations for that. Congratulations for this." And then didn't say another word. I sat down, obviously turned over the papers, saw that it was a professional contract at 18 years old. And I was I was beside myself. I couldn't even explain, couldn't even describe the emotions, even to this day, of how I felt. And I was shocked. And the first response that I had was, "Oh, but I've got a final next week. I can't let my team down." And he goes, "Well, I've got this for you. You've got to be in Hong Kong in 3 days because you're playing in front of 35,000 people in 5 days.
Holy.
And I just sat there and I got goosebumps just saying it and reminiscing about it right now. But I was like, "Are you serious?" And he goes, "Yep, I'm serious." So all of this happened in that moment, and within 3 days, I'd left my family, I'd left my friends, I'd left my football team, had to obviously say goodbye to them, left everything behind, packed what I thought was the right things into a suitcase at just turning 18 years old.
Yeah.
Got on a plane, and I was in Hong Kong within the 3 days that they wanted me to.
Wow.
And then obviously that was like, it all happened within, it felt like 10 seconds. It was incredible. And then obviously, as you are an international player, you've obviously got to go through the visa process. You've got to go through this, you've got to go through that. So that ended up taking the 2 days. So Wednesday and Thursday, I spent doing all those things that I needed to do to even be able to play. So Friday was the game, and I had just finished, everything got cleared, and I got a call from the manager, and he goes, "Yeah, you're playing tonight, you're starting."
Wow.
And I was like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah.
He goes, "Yeah, you're gonna start tonight." I was like, I couldn't believe myself. I was obviously excited. Like I felt like Messi. I felt like all of that. But also I was like, I don't even know the color of our shirt. I don't even know these players' names. What position am I playing? Like, it was all just overwhelming. Anyway, I obviously go to the game, nervous as, anxious as, didn't know what to expect, but also on the other hand, I loved it. And then, as you do, you run out for the warm-up, and like a movie scene. You just walk out and it feels like you're going in slow motion, and you just look around at the stadium, you see all these fans. And then somehow I just looked in a direction, and I didn't know this was happening, but my mother, my father, and my agent were in the stands.
Wow.
And they surprised me.
Unbelievable.
Had no idea. And then once I saw them, I just felt comfort. I was like, "Yep, this is my time. Let's go."
Love that.
I played 75 minutes, had a terrible game. Obviously, everything got to me.
For sure.
I thought, but then after that game, I thought, I'm done. Like, why is this club going to want me anymore after that performance? Because obviously, being fresh in the professional setup, you also don't know that you get a chance, or you get at least one more chance to prove yourself. I thought, no, it's one chance, and if you don't play at your 100%, you're gone. So that's how, I guess, my story has led up all the way up until the first game.
Unbelievable. Yeah, I mean, I want to touch back to your youth development and stuff like that. I mean, I think, like you said, you had that talent, you had that technical ability, and you were playing up. So do you think the reason that you developed that technical ability was because you didn't have the size, you didn't have the physical ability, so you had to rely on something else? And if so, how did you develop that technical ability? Were you doing other individual work, or was it just like a lot of team training and you were just adapting to the situation?
Yeah, look, I realized pretty young, which you have to, obviously, as a footballer, you have to know your strengths and you have to know your weaknesses, and you have to be stronger in your strengths, and you have to get better at your weaknesses. You obviously can't have the scales too far apart if obviously you want to progress. So I knew what I was good at in terms of, I was tactical, I was technical, I had all of that. I could run all day. They were my strengths. So I held on to them, but also I made sure that in every single training session and in every single match, what my strengths were, I was doing them as close to 100% as possible, because I knew that that's what I'm good at. I knew that's what the coaches knew that I was good at as well. So you kind of can get away with the things that you're not so good at if you're doing the things that you are good at very, very, very well. Coaches are coaches for a reason. They know strengths and they know weaknesses of every individual player. So if you're doing the things you're good. If you're doing the things that you're not good at, but you're trying, you'll still at least get that appreciation from a coach.
For sure.
But yeah, obviously, definitely, I figured that out by playing up, and also just in general being a smaller lad. I think that really woke me up to what my strengths were, what my weaknesses were, which obviously inevitably led me to doing extra training outside of just my training session, like my football training sessions. And I've always prided myself on, even from when I was a young kid all the way up until now, I'm the hardest worker on the field, off the field. I can like basically say it with complete confidence that I'm a complete professional. But that's obviously come through the years, you know. Like when I was a young boy, I realized I wasn't big enough. I realized I wasn't strong enough. So I was like, okay, if I'm not that, how do I go and do that? Does that mean I need to get a personal trainer? Does that mean I need to go into the gym? Does that mean I need to do more research? Does that mean I need to ask my dad, what do I do? You know, but also when you have the drive and the dream, you are able to, I guess, dig a little bit deeper into what you need to do to get yourself to a level that you want to get to. So me in the sense that I was smaller, I knew that I needed to get into the gym. I knew that I needed to move weights. I didn't need to move weights like I was a bodybuilder or rugby player. No, but I needed to just get, for my body shape, as strong and as physical as I could. Like I said, didn't mean I had to get into the gym and lift 100 kilos. I could have gone into the gym and lifted 2 kilos, but it was about me. But also during those gym training sessions, you've also got to focus that, yes, the gym plays a part, but you've also got to focus on the football, because inevitably your 100%. Job is to perform on a football pitch, not look like the world's strongest man. So finding that balance also at times, and especially with social media and all of that, it's quite difficult. It's not easy, because you see, 100%. You even see some of the most elite footballers in the world, they look absolutely shredded, they're muscly, you know, and kids think, oh, I have to look like them to be a professional. You don't have to. I thought that as well. I honestly thought as a kid, I have to look like a Cristiano Ronaldo, or I have to have the perfect body to make sure, like to mean that I'm playing good football. It's not the case. You've still got to, or you've got to actually focus on the football more. But if a weakness of yours is strength, you find a way to implement strength into your footballing training or football program, but also the balance so that your strength isn't outpowering your football as well. So it's very hard,
100%.
but it's like school. It's like anything. You learn, you see the positives in your own body, you see the negatives, blah, 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 and it's pick and choose. It's a path. It's a roller coaster, whatever you want to call it. But if it is something that you want to do, you will find the way, you will work it out, and you'll inevitably get there.
100%. Yeah, I mean, dude, I love what you said, and I mean, I think that's why, main reason I have this podcast as well. I want to show the highs and the lows, you know, that football is not all sunshines and rainbows. And, you know, the fact, I think that we've seen, you know, just from the beginning of your journey, you have the ability to self-reflect and be honest with yourself and look yourself in the mirror, you know, and I think, like, for example, what you said there, like, now 28 years old, you know, in your prime with all the experience, you said you're a complete player. Yeah. So a lot of people would come on this podcast, listen and say, oh, this guy's cocky or this guy's arrogant. But I completely think the opposite. You know what I mean? I think that you've completely, let's say, I don't know if you've heard of David Goggins, but you've dissected the strengths and the weaknesses, and you've put in the time throughout your career to get to where you're at. So you fully deserve to say that, you know? And I think the people who say, when someone says that, or for example, when someone's like, on social media showing their results or showing their highlights or whatever, when they say they're cocky, it's because they're insecure themselves. So I think the people that are secure with inside themselves have the ability to really realize and respect that. So I fully respect that. And with that being said, and I think you probably answered the question, but, you know, there's always, you know, when we hear coaches, when we hear pros talk on podcasts, everyone talks about belief and talks about believing in yourself. how do you truly develop that belief? How do you truly develop that self-confidence? Because you mentioned that word a lot, and you said that's why you got here today. So for the young footballers listening, how do you develop that true self-confidence and belief in yourself?
I think it's about being knocked down more times than you've actually been put on a pedestal, to be honest, because it doesn't matter where you are in your career, youth, pro, whatever, if you're only hearing positive or proper accolades, you're not actually learning anything, in my opinion. I've learnt the most from the hardest moments, the deepest, the darkest the moments, the times where people have said no to me, the times where people have just been 100% honest with me and said, you don't have this, you don't have that. I'm the kind of player and person that appreciates the hard truth. And although in the moment it's hard to process, it's hard to digest, you learn from that.
Yep.
My belief is you don't learn from just being the best all the time, or you don't learn from winning every single game. That's why inevitably one team wins, one team loses. That's why every squad has a maximum of whatever number of players in the first 11 in the squad in total. It's because you're meant to go through these hard times. It's not meant to be easy. You're not meant to go through it and just be like, yeah, I am the best, and have sunshine and rainbows around you all the time. You're not going to learn through that. Whereas if you go through the hard times and you take on the positive criticism, or you just sit there in the mirror and acknowledge the fact that, okay, I am good, but I'm not the best, because there's things that I still need to work on. And if you're okay with that, and then you go and work on that, that's what inevitably evolves you into a better footballer, a better person, but also mentally, because this game, majority of it is mental, it grows you mentally as well. And you need all of these factors. So for me,
100%.
it would be about those negative moments, and it doesn't matter if you get them when you're young or when you're older, but it's just about listening to them, acknowledging them. Yes, you can take it to heart in the moment, but take a moment to actually fully process, feel those emotions, feel that critique, let it sink in, cry if you have to, scream if you have to, do what you have to, but fully indulging what you've heard or what's been said or given to you. Get through that part, and then go and work on whatever they said. If they said
100%.
you're not fast enough, go through the process of saying, I'm like mentally, I know I'm fast enough. I know I'm fast enough. I'm not fast enough. Oh, I should be faster. Go through all of that. And then when you get through all of that, actually sit there and be like, okay, this person has told me this for a particular reason. Now, because I've gone through it, I'm going to listen to them and I'm going to get faster. And it's not, I'm going to get faster to prove that particular person or whatever wrong. It's to prove to yourself that you can go to that next step. You can go to that next level. And that obviously also doesn't just improve your physicality, that improves your mentality. So the next time something happens, positive or negative, you've already gone through a process like this. So it's like muscle memory. It's like, okay, cool. I've gone through this. I'm going to process this. I'm going to get better. On to the next one, on to the next one, on to the next one. And then over time, it just becomes nothing, because you already know how to process everything. And that's obviously comes with development, comes with age, comes with experience, comes with all of that. But that's how you're able to, I guess, also stay at the best level or the highest level or whatever level you're playing at, is because of those factors as well.
100%. Yeah, I love that, man. And at the end of the day, I think whatever you're chasing, whether you want to be a professional footballer, or you want to start your own business, or whatever you're chasing that's hard, if you look at the whole process as a self-development journey, that I think that's the most powerful, because obviously, we can't play this game for the rest of our life. So after we play the game, we're going to go into other things. I see you have other things as well, which we'll talk about after. But, you can either use that in parallel, or, you know, and you bring that into the next area of your life. And I think, you know, if you look at this football journey as a self-development process, and like you said from the beginning, building that bulletproof mindset, you know, when you get into the real world, you'll eat everyone alive, because no one has the discipline to wake up early, to do the 3 sessions a day, to sleep the 8 hours, to eat all the clean food. Like, it's a 24/7 process to be a professional footballer and to stay there. You know, you've been there for 10 years now. I mean, you know, maybe signing that first pro contract, you know, but the ability to stay consistent and maintain that is the goal. So, yeah, I mean, you talked about, which is very interesting, you know, that journey to Croatia was a very big part playing in your process, because obviously you moved away from family. It's a different culture. And I think people don't realize that. Like, you can, you know, I always say it all the time. People always ask me how to build mental toughness. Like, you can read as many books as you want. You can listen to as many professors as you want. But until you put yourself in the dirt and you go through the grind, you'll never build that mental toughness and that mental strength.
I couldn't agree more. I 100% agree with you. The only way to learn, the only way to get that is to go through it. And yes, it's dark. Of course it's dark. But that's life. That's why there's sunshine, and that's why there's darkness. At the end of the day,
100%.
you learn more through the dark or even through the light than you do from reading a book, than you do from even listening to us two speak. If you're going through something or you've been through something, you're going to learn more, because inevitably this is you and I speaking. So this is our journey. This is our minds connecting. The viewers, the people that are listening, it's not them. So yes, it's obviously good to hear stories and obviously speak about it, but you've got to go through these hard times. But like I said, the most important thing is when you go through them, yes, it's hard, but learn from them. Take the time to really, really feel everything that you went through, feel the emotion, feel whatever it is, feel that first, get through it, and it builds you. And then, like I said, it's just a roll-on effect. You get stronger, things get easier. Even when it seems like it's harder, it's not that hard, because you're just building that mental strength, mental toughness, that nothing can get in your way of what you inevitably want to do. And if it is being a footballer, if it is being an artist, if it is being a director, whatever it is, you can achieve that. You can achieve whatever you want. Us as humans, we're built to be able to stand absolutely anything. And that's why they say, people dream big. Dream big. But if your dream is so big, take the steps to reach that dream, if that is your dream. Otherwise, it's not actually your dream. And you've got to have a realistic dream. For example, that's like me sitting here right now saying I want to be the president of Australia. I don't want to be the president of Australia, so why would I say it? I want to be a professional footballer. So, okay, bring out a mood board, do something to find out the steps that you've got to do to reach that goal. And it's not easy. It's hard. We just spoke on it. It's dark. There's going to be more downs than there's going to be ups, but just keep getting up. You get smacked, get up. You get a no, get up. Somebody doesn't like you, there's millions of other people in the world. There's millions of other clubs, there's coaches, whatever. There's always a plan B, plan C. That's why the alphabet goes that's why it goes all the way to Z. It's not just, you get one chance and it's over. No, if it doesn't work in plan A, go to the second, go to the third, retry it 100,000 times if you want. I could sit here right now and also tell you I've been rejected more times in my life than I know. I have more people that dislike me or speak negatively about me, but has that stopped me? Of course not. That's their opinion at the end of the day. And this is the bulletproof mindset that I'm talking about. People can have whatever opinion they want of me. I couldn't care less. But where am I? My dream at the start of this was to be a professional footballer. And where am I? I am a professional footballer. So if people love me, if people don't like me, if I get a yes, if I get a no, whatever it is, my dream is still there. And I'm still, even to this day, still taking the steps. Now it's not to get there, it's to maintain that dream. And that's obviously a completely different talking point in itself, but you understand what I mean.
100%. Yeah, and with all that being said, man, I completely agree. I mean, if you're doing things against the grain and you're not doing things like the rest of them, people are going to hate. And most of it stems from jealousy and insecurity, like we talked about before. But at the end of the day, I think the most important thing is the opinion of yourself. Can you look yourself in the mirror at the end of the day and say, this is my dream, and like you said, this is what I have to do. These are the steps I have to take to get there. I reverse engineered the process. Did I do all those things? Or did I slack? Was I spending too much time on my phone? Was I watching too much TikTok? Was I playing too many video games? Or did you actually align all the actions with your words? And I think that's the biggest thing. I think, it's so easy to say I want to be a professional footballer, but to do those actions consistently day after day is the tough part.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. The phrase that I used to like and I still live by is sacrifice whatever you have to for whatever you want to achieve. And I've said that. I didn't come up with it, obviously, but I've lived by that throughout my entire existence. If I want something, and I'm a perfect example, I packed my bags, left everything behind for something that I wanted.
Yeah.
If it is something that you want, doesn't matter what it is, but if it is something that you want, you've got to be all in. If that sacrifice
100%.
means getting off your phone, if that sacrifice means leaving the country, whatever it is, you've got to be tunnel vision. And this is very, very important. And this is why saying that you have a dream or a goal, you have to be 100% certain that is exactly what you want. Because
100%.
when we have dreams and when we have goals, the normal person sees it as so far-fetched, but we see it as achievable. So to everybody else, you've already failed. But in your mind, if you have that tunnel vision and you know exactly what you want and you implement the steps that we were saying to get to that dream, nothing else along the way is going to distract you. Doesn't matter if it's girls, doesn't matter if it's parties, family, friends, social media, fashion, cars, money, doesn't matter. If you've got that tunnel vision with that dream still there in front of you, which has to be like that, it will be achievable eventually because you've been able to sacrifice everything else for the goal, the dream that you've wanted.
100%. Yeah. I love it, man. I love it. I love these interspersed talks in between, and that's the reason I love these conversations, especially with guys who've been through the grind and have the experience, because this is what we learn along the way. These are the philosophies that we develop and the values we develop through the journey and through the different cultures we've been through. So with that being said, can you take us after you went to Hong Kong? I saw you made a move to Thailand. How did that come about?
So I was in Hong Kong and I just felt like it wasn't the right location for me to be in, football-wise. I was obviously young, fit, a lot of adrenaline, excited, all those kind of things as you are at 18 years old. But for me, I realized very quickly that the Hong Kong League for me was, it's going to sound harsh to say, but it's more of a retirement league. It's slower in pace. The training sessions are slower. Everything's done at a slower pace. The quality is there of the players. Of course it is. They're professionals at the end of the day, but it was too slow for me. And I'm a fast-paced footballer. Whether it was when I was 18, whether it's now when I'm 28, I play. These guys played, but not to where I wanted to be playing at, in terms of speed, in terms of adrenaline, in terms of all of that. So I realized that pretty quickly. And I'm also the kind of person that if I don't want to be somewhere or I don't feel like it's right for me, I'm okay to step aside and leave where I am 100%. To go and find something better. I think that's also very, very good attribute to have, because obviously if you're in an environment where you're not happy or you're doubtful or anything, that plays on your individual mind. And when things start to play on your individual mind, especially as obviously now was speaking about me being a professional footballer, the expectation, the pressure, everything else that comes with that is so much higher. You are the main guy, especially in Asia. You are the main everything on the pitch and off the pitch. So mentally, if you're not 100% there, or if you don't feel like you belong, or it's not the right country outside of football for you or inside football, if you just allow yourself to be there and play out your contract for whatever personal reason, you're not 100% there. And we just spoke on it. It's tunnel vision.
Exactly.
If you're not tunnel vision where you are, come match day, you're not going to perform at your 100% best. And if you're not performing at your 100% best on match day, who is suffering the most from that? Your individual self. And think, the football club's going to remain there whether I'm in the football club or not. But am I going to remain a professional football player if I only give 80%, if I give 60, if I give 90? Maybe yes, but maybe not. So I realized at Hong Kong, look, loved the place, loved the country, nothing against it, but it just wasn't the right fit for me. So obviously got in contact with my team, because at this stage, I obviously have a very good tight-knit circle around me. So I got in contact with my team and I was like, look, this is the situation. I'm not happy. And then obviously you hear things from different people saying stay, saying go, saying do this, saying do that. So my team basically come up with two options: come back to Australia and, see what happens, or how it worked was there wasn't a professional contract on the table at the time. The agent came to me and goes, look, I'll fly you I'll get you to Thailand. We'll get you a trial, and then we'll see if it happens. I was like, let's go. I wasn't prepared to give up on my dream. I had that belief, that self-confidence in myself, that I was like, put me anywhere. Like, I don't care where, I don't care what. I'm a football player. So I went there with the mentality of, I am the best. I know my strengths, that confidence. I guess that confidence that I bring off now, I brought it off then, but obviously in a different way, because I was a little bit less experienced. But I went in there with the full belief, knowing that I was going to get a professional contract out of it. Inevitably, obviously, I did, and spent a beautiful, beautiful 2 years in Thailand. Loved the country, loved the football, loved everything about it, to be honest. And then, I just wanted to obviously progress again. I thought my time was up there. I wanted to, I guess, test the waters. And also, I've said this even throughout, well, to my old man, throughout my whole football career, is I always want to take a step up in my career, if I can. Obviously, if my ability allows me to, and all that, I don't want to be stagnant for too long, blah, blah, blah. If I can progress, I want to progress. Obviously, if I have to stay stagnant, I'm okay with staying stagnant, but I'm working on myself to progress. So that was the reason why, obviously, I wanted to move out of Thailand. And then, fortunately enough, obviously got a contract in Indonesia. So this was now my third country within, what is it, 4 years. So fourth year of being a professional, fourth country already. So third country. Completely different culture, completely different style. Everything was new again. It was like I was a newborn baby. Because obviously when you play in a particular country, there's a particular playing style, there's particular things that you've got to understand, that you need to do, that you don't need to do, etc., etc., etc. So obviously I learned those two in the first two countries, and then I had to do it all over again in a third country, which was Indonesia, where obviously I've spent predominantly of my football career. The reason why is because I'm not sure how much knowledge you have on Indonesian football, but they are absolutely football mad, like proper next level mad. So we were getting sold out stadiums every single game. Didn't matter who you played against. I'm talking 80, 70, 60, 40, 50,000 people every stadium. and it was like a
Wow.
festival. They bring flares, they bring drums, but it's also like fight night. So from the stands, they throw bottles at you. There's been many times I've been escorted in police tanks. It's a lot.
Wow.
Even
Holy.
off the field, you are treated pretty much like you're an EPL player. Like it's surreal.
Wow.
And whenever I
That's
say this
unbelievable.
to people are like, "Nah, you're talking rubbish. You're lying." Then obviously I pull my phone out and show them videos of obviously past experiences, and they're like, "Wow, like I didn't know that." And I was like, "Yeah." So I'm obviously not just talking smack to pump up myself or pump up anything, but it's just how crazy they are with football there, and it was incredible. Like it was madness. Like even down to the point where I couldn't go to the grocery store. I couldn't sit at a cafe to have coffee. I couldn't do anything. Like in saying that, obviously I could, but I knew that if I sat there, it would be very uncomfortable because they didn't have a sense of personal space. Like they didn't care. If they saw me, they thought I was messy. Fine, no worries. But they'd come up to me all the time. And for me, like I love all of that. I love all of the extras. Who doesn't?
Yeah.
But to get that every single day, it becomes exhausting, and it's a lot. Like that's a job in itself.
100%.
So it was insane. And then another side of that, if I flip the page, this is where social media came into and to play a big part in my football career. Was Indonesia. So they are, I like to call them keyboard warriors.
I've seen
So
that. I've seen that. Yeah.
They are your Pep Guardiolas. They are your Ant Postacoglu's. They know it all. But the thing is, they're not afraid to tell you how they feel or how I am as a person. They know nothing about me yet. They see me on the football pitch. And I also say this to everybody as well. On the football pitch, I'm a completely different person to what I am off the football pitch.
For sure. You got to be a dog on the field.
We're actors. That's the way I like to put it to everybody else. Obviously, to another footballing brain, you know what it's like. But to everybody else, we're like actors. So you flick a switch once you cross that line, you turn into a beast because you have to for that 90 minutes to get your job done. Exactly.
Yep.
And if you're coming in and you're not that beast, you're going to get belted.
100%.
You can say like we're in the wild. The biggest one wins in the wild. Same on the football pitch. If you go into a challenge and it's 60-40, you're going to lose that challenge. If you go into a challenge half-assed, someone comes 100%, you have a potential to get injured as well. So,
exactly.
I have been portrayed in Indonesia as I've got all the accolades. The bad boy, the aggressive, the angry man, all of it. I am. I am, yes. And I live by that. And that's obviously also made my name, made my career. But that's me. That's football Aaron.
Yeah. Yeah.
Outside of the football pitch, Aaron is completely different. As you can tell, I'm the nicest, humblest guy in the world. But that also came through all of that experience as well. Like I struggled a lot at the start as well. I was a person who read a lot of the social media comments. Read a lot of the newspaper articles about the negativity that was being portrayed on me. And when I say the comments, like I would get, and this is no word of a lie, at least 400 DMs a day from random people saying you're shit, saying why do you play football, saying they'll come for my family, saying they'll rape my girlfriend, like anything that you can imagine. I was getting this, but I wasn't getting it in like 2 or 3 messages in like the span of a year or 5 years. I was getting like 400 messages a day like this. And it like it slapped me in the face. So then what does that mean? And this is what I was saying before about tunnel vision. It rocked me because I hadn't been around this before. I didn't know football was like this because in Hong Kong, in Thailand, it wasn't. They were the nicest fans. They were the nicest people in the world. But in Indonesia, like this was insane. So I went off my path a little bit. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I went out of my tunnel vision and I fell
Yep.
into the trap of social media for a little bit,
100%. Yeah.
and I struggled. And then basically just what I was explaining in the podcast, you've got to go through all of this. You've got to acknowledge this. And you've got two options. You stay in that, as in you stay on social media, you stay reading the comments, or
Mm-hmm.
you go through it, you get through it, and you go back into your tunnel vision.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I've done the latter. I've got back into my tunnel vision, but that is a big part of why I am who I am today, and why I said right at the start of this, why I do have a bulletproof mindset is because of all the experiences that I've gone through. And that's why I
100%.
also said to you, I think through the pod, you'll understand as to why I say that, because now obviously I've got to break it down to you a little bit more, so it becomes a little bit more clear as to why I can confidently sit here and say that without hesitation.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
I also, without a lie as well, I can't go back 5 years. I probably said the exact same thing, but I was pretending to myself. It was a face. It was a show. You know, it was all that, yeah, I'm
Mm-hmm.
strong. Yeah, whatever. I'm bulletproof, whatever. But I wasn't. It was an act. But now, going through everything, I can quite comfortably sit here and say 100% I'm good.
Yeah, yeah, I love that, bro. I love that. And with that being said, man, I mean, dude, it's so easy, like you said, to sit here and talk on a podcast of not to let these messages phase you. But dude, when you open your Instagram and you want to just go in there and I don't know, look at some things that are going to help you, or I see you post great content now. But how did you deal with that stuff? Because it's so much easier said than done. Like dealing with those negative comments, is especially when you're in a country that's you're unfamiliar with, and you're giving your all to the football team, and you want to help the team. Like people are just trying to bash you and tear you down. How did you deal with that?
Look, I couldn't understand why they were coming for me, to be honest, at the start. Like, I thought, obviously, in Asia, you're only allowed a certain amount of foreign players. So, obviously, you come in there with that little bit of extra, I guess,
Yeah,
stardom
target on
to
your
your
back.
name, or, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
target, stardom, all
yeah,
that kind of stuff. So,
yeah,
I knew the pressure was going to be there in terms of, club results or, but in Indonesia, especially, it felt like you win because of your foreigners and you lose because of your foreigners.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah. That's
also,
interesting.
it's like they have a 1 week memory. So if you play good on Saturday, but then come the next following Saturday and you play like shit, they're like, you're the worst player in the world. Get out
Exactly.
of our team. I'm coming to your house and all that. And I was like, hold on. Like,
Yeah,
one, it's just a game of football.
yeah,
And two, do you think I'm not trying to give my best? Like, I don't rock up onto the football pitch and like, no, I'm only going to give 50% today. Of course not. Of
yeah,
course I go
yeah,
out onto
yeah.
the football pitch and try to give my 100%, but sometimes it just doesn't work. That's life. That's
Mm-hmm,
normal.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But to feel
Yeah, you're
to
not a robot,
feel
man.
this, yeah, literally, but to feel this from them, and me being obviously at the time so new to getting those kind of messages through social media, I really, it took me a long time. It took me a long process in terms of I struggled in training. I struggled in
Mm-hmm,
match day for some of them because it was on my mind. And this is also why people read books, they study, because they learn from that. If you read comments, you also process and learn that and remember that.
exactly.
So even if you think that you've forgotten about it, subconsciously it is still there,
Mm-hmm,
regardless of if you think it is or you tell yourself it's not, it's still there. So I would
mm-hmm,
I would go into training sessions having read, like, sat on my phone reading all of them, and then gone to a training session or gone to a game, and it would just be on the front of my mind, and I'd be so, I guess, cobwebbed up, I'd like to say, in what my actions and what I was doing, because I was so scared of what these people that I didn't even know, that had no part in my life, my career, my journey, were saying about me. So I
mm-hmm,
went through the process that I explained before. I sat down, I felt it, looked myself in the mirror, obviously spoken to my circle of people, and was like, look, this is what I'm
mm-hmm,
going through. I'm struggling. What do I do to get through it? asked myself, asked others, but inevitably I figured it out on my own because, like I said, my goal was still to be a professional footballer. I was there, but my goal was to maintain being a footballer. So I broke it down and was like, okay, how am I going to get through this? And it takes time. It doesn't take a day. You can't just flick something in your mind and be like, yep, good, I'm not going to read anything. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. Because it's always going to be there. So you've got to go through the steps, even if it's something so small like fans or negative criticism. It might seem like a small thing, but it's not. It's such a big thing that you have to break down into smaller things. So it's an individual battle.
Yeah.
So I went through that process. I was like, okay, cool. Who are they to me? They don't matter. Okay, boom. I don't care what they say. How can I not see what they're saying about me? Don't go on social media. So I didn't for a long time. I separated myself from social media to see if that worked. And again, every person's different. Some people can stay on social media, read them, go through them, and be fine. I thought my path was to get off it for a little bit, refocus, restart, and then potentially get back into social media again in the future. That was my plan, and it worked. I went through and figured out what worked for me, got through it, and we're here.
Yeah. That's awesome, bro. That's awesome. So like you said, I mean, just from the beginning, you said, you got stuck in it a little bit, but then you just finally found those blinders again. You got back on the track. And I think that's huge, man. I think it's like sometimes when you're on, and we've all, like, for us footballers that have been on the journey, we have the lows and you get off the track and you sometimes lose the focus and you sometimes stop doing the extra training because that outside stuff is taking away from your focus. But I think, like you said, those ages when you're younger, you realize that. And then you look back, like, at the age we're at right now, and you're like, wow, I can't believe that stuff threw me off track. But I think the main goal for footballers listening is, like, when you get off track, your main goal should just be to get right back on track as quickly as possible. And like you said, you can fully, reflect and deal with those emotions. But the longer you stay off track, the worse you're going to feel. 'Cause that's what a rut is. Once you get in that rut, you just keep digging that hole. Instead, get out of that hole and get back on track. I think that's the biggest takeaway that I've gotten from my lows and from your story as well.
No, for sure. I couldn't agree more. But like I said, you've got to go through these lows.
Sure.
You've got to break yourself down and figure out who you are to be able to turn into the person that you want to be, or even into the footballer that you can be or want to be as well.
100%. So yeah, man, take us through. I see you played in Indonesia for 3 different teams. How was that whole experience? What was if you look back on those 3 years, what was your overall, the difference between Hong Kong, Thailand, and Indonesia? Obviously, you told us football-wise, Indonesia was much better. How about lifestyle-wise, and how you were treated on and off the pitch, and how you felt overall mentally and physically?
Yeah, obviously being in these foreign countries, away from, I guess, your favorite things, it's difficult. I'm not going to sit here and say it's easy. You miss a lot of things. Take family, take friends away from it. You miss the basic things like food, good nutrition, even down to a pillow, a bed. Everything is different. And then the next step of that is you're in a foreign country and they speak a foreign language. So you don't know the language. So how are you going to get by without knowing the language? And then throw another thing in the mix. You don't have friends there. So who are you going to hang out with? What are you going to do to distract yourself from football? It's a mess. That's the best way to describe it. It's a mess. It's not easy.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, that's not even your job. Your job is football. And nobody cares whether it's a coach, a fan, your family obviously do, but everybody else, they don't care how hard it is off the field. All they care is how it is on the football pitch.
Yeah.
So you've got to get through that. Yeah. Exactly. You've got to get through that hurdle as well. And that's a hurdle in itself. But luckily for me, I'm an adaptable kind of person. You can throw me anywhere and I'll find a way. Like, obviously, I'm very, very, very big on my nutrition, how I eat, how I sleep. As I said, I try to be the perfect professional. And for me to get out of my comfort zone, as in leave Australia and go play in these foreign countries, was extremely difficult for a person like me, because I'm obviously live up to that such high expectation. Whereas some footballers don't, and you don't obviously have to live up to that kind of expectation to be a football player. I'm not trying to say that, but majority of footballers don't.
If you want to succeed like you have and maintain that, you do. You do have to hold yourself to that standard.
But it also makes sense. I played in professional football for 10 years. I haven't been injured. I've basically played every single game, every single minute of every single team that I've been in. So although I sit and say you don't have to be like this if you want to have a longevity career, because even think about it, 10 years, okay, I've done it earlier in my career as in age-wise, but 10 years being a professional athlete at an elite level is not easy.
No.
I've done that. And I'm 28 years old and I'm nowhere near done. But why have I done that? I've done that because of obviously the professionalism that I kept throughout. Not just, I didn't flick a switch when I became a professional and was like, oh, I'm going to be like this now. No, I flicked this switch when I was a young lad. And that's the reason why I am and have been doing what I've been doing all these years. So yeah, but back to what I was saying, I love being adaptable. It's fantastic. I love learning new things. I love learning new cultures, trying new foods, being around new people, different environments, different climates, all of that. Like, I'm your man for that. So I adapted really, really well in every single country that I've been in. But I think also that is another factor as to why I've been able to continue to do what I'm doing, because I've seen many, many, many footballers come from all parts of the world, come into Asia, and they have way better footballing CV, way better footballing ability than me, but have crumbled in these countries for whatever reason. Could be mental, could be physical, could be anything, but have struggled. So I guess I've kind of, we can say it's luck, we can say it's whatever, but or I was even born this way, that I'm just adaptable. So,
dude, I wrote that word. It's so funny, man. I wrote that word down. I wrote adaptability down. You know what I mean? Because that's what sorry to interrupt, but dude, that's what I've heard throughout. You know what I mean? And I think the fact you say lucky, I don't. I think the most important thing, like you've been talking about, is routine. Can you go into these jungles and these tough environments and develop your own routine to set yourself up for success? I think that's the key. Like you said, go into any culture, any place you're at, any club, and just say to yourself, whatever comes my way, I'm adapting. What did Darwin say? It's not the strongest who survive, not the fittest. It's the ones who have the ability to adapt. So I think I actually think adaptability is the most important word for footballers. Adaptability, consistency, and discipline. If you have those three things, I think you can succeed. And one more thing I want to say before we go back to you. What I heard, from your longevity, and I read also about you, how you've played, so many minutes, and I was going to ask you about that, but you've answered it. And I think the main thing here is easy choices, hard life. Hard choices, easy life. It's the same thing with your career. Obviously, it's not easy, but it'll be long, and it'll be, you'll enjoy it because you've done the hard stuff and you continue to do the hard stuff. So that sets you up for success on the pitch.
Absolutely, it does. And I could not tell you how many parties I've missed, how many times mates, other players have gone out for drinks, gone out partying, girls, whatever it is. You're obviously, at the end of the day, you're a professional athlete, so you have it all in the palm of your hands.
Yeah.
I've said no to, I've said no more times than I've said yes, because I know what's good for me and I know what's not saying it's bad for you, but I know what's not going to maintain where I want to be and where I want to get to. So discipline, you just said it. It is about discipline.
Yes.
You have to say no if it's not for you. If it's not for that dream, and I will always go back to this, if that is your dream, if it's not going towards your dream, you have to say no. But also, you can't say no with neglect. You have to say no and truly mean no.
For sure.
If you say no with neglect, and then you sit there and you're in your head, oh, I wish I went out, oh, I wish I drank, oh, I wish I met that girl. You can't do that because that plays on your mind, and you can't allow external things to play on your mind in this industry. And that's why everybody is not a professional athlete, because it's not easy. You have to have that tunnel vision. So you have to be able to say no to these things with the confidence, like you would say yes to something that's towards your dream. And when you realize that, then you're good. You're good. It is hard. It is lonely. It is everything. Same when I bring food into it, for example. I love boiled chicken and rice. Love it. I could eat it every meal of the day. Like, I couldn't care. Yeah. Every other person looks at me like I've lost my mind. Like, are you serious? Like, put some sauce on it. Do this, do that. I'm like, but it works for me. It works for my body, and it's getting me the results. So I can sit here confidently eating it while somebody right next to me is eating whatever they want, a pizza, a pasta, whatever. Like, but also, even if those people are sitting around me at the table, I don't feel entitled to want some of their food, because in my mind, that food's not going to help me as much as the food in front of me is going to help me. Yes, mine might look boring. Yes, mine might taste boring. Whatever you want to say, but which one is inevitably going to fuel my body for what I want to achieve? 100%. I know what it is. It is that chicken and rice. So I'm going to eat that chicken and rice. If I had a slice of that pizza, or if I had a bowl of that pasta, you're going to have that different effect on you come tomorrow when you've got a double session, or come tomorrow when you've got a match day. So you've got to get that understanding of what works for you and
100%.
Make it work and just stick to that.
Absolutely. It's can you do the boring stuff consistently day after day, and I think, taking back to your experience in Indonesia, can you develop that mindset of like, I just don't care what anyone says, that tunnel vision, like, you do you. And I'm the same way, man. I mean, you said it from the beginning. I'm the type of guy, like, you either love me or you hate me, because I'm very black and white. I got no gray area, So I'm gonna do me, and you're with me on the journey or you're not. You know what I mean? So I think that's key to develop. It's hard to develop. I think as I've gotten older, I'm sure you've developed that as you've gotten more experience. But can you develop that I just don't care mindset, and I'm just gonna do what's best for me, not in a selfish way, but in a way that is going to help you succeed?
The word I like to use is confidence. I'm very big on this word. I would 100%. Say, can you do it in a confident way? Because there is a fine line between confidence and arrogance.
Yes.
Of course there is. And people are always going to think you're arrogant, or people are always going to think you're confident. But if you can do it in a confident way, and you can express it in a confident way, that's that I don't give a shit mentality. I don't care what people say mentality. Comes to confidence as well.
100%. I love it, man. Yeah, man. So can you take us? I saw last year you made a move to India. So how did that move come about, and how did you enjoy your time there?
Yeah, so I ended my tenure in Indonesia, came back to Australia, and it was obviously time for me to look for a new adventure, new experience. I said to my team, look, I want a new. Obviously, I've broken out of that Indonesia period. I want to go somewhere else. And then football's the craziest sport in the world. Things can happen in a click of the fingers, or things can happen 5-10 years later, whenever. Just so happened that I was in Australia for about 2 weeks, and I got a call from an agent that I've never known, never heard of, never been in contact with me before. And he goes, "Are you interested in coming to India?" And the kind of person I am, I will never say no to nothing. That's my mentality. That's the way I live by and have lived by, as in a football player, but also in my life. I'll never say no to anything. I'm open always to a discussion. I'm open always to an opportunity, an offer, blah, 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 blah.
Sure.
So India came. This agent came, and I was like, sure. Have the conversation with the club, and let's see. And everything happened so fast as well, which has happened my whole career. Everything's just happened quickly, which is cool. I love that. Like I'm that kind of person, adaptable again. So yeah, it came about. Didn't know, like there's obviously been a few Australians there in the past, blah, 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 that you can ask. But again, that's their experience. So I don't really like to ask other people who have been in that particular country or that particular league on what it's like, what to expect. I like to go, and this is me, but I like to go in there blind. I like to go in there not knowing too much what to expect. Obviously, I do my research. You have to. You're not going to go in 100% blind, but I don't really like getting feedback from other people because they give their interpretation or experience, and I don't want that. I'd prefer to read Google, as an example, read Google or see something about that particular place or team that I'm going, and that's it. I'm satisfied. So that's what I did, and that's what I do. So obviously that came about, got to India, and I was blown away in two sides. Obviously, there's a football side, and then there's a life side. So football and non-football, we'll say. Non-football was a massive, massive, massive eye-opener for me personally. Even throughout my career, I've obviously been to some places. I've seen a lot of things. I've witnessed a lot of things. I've gone through it all, literally, all of it. But I don't know, India just hit different for me off the pitch. It was a lot. It was quite difficult for me to adapt, to be honest, because like I said earlier as well, I obviously pride myself on being such a high professional. In that is obviously my nutrition. And for me, where I was based, for me to find good quality nutrition in my city, I found it extremely difficult. So I struggled in that sense. And then living wise, struggled in that sense. Everything off field felt like it was a battle. Not in a negative way, but it just felt like it was, an extra chip on my shoulder that I had to get through, which obviously inevitably distracted my mentality just that little bit further, which again, like I said before, you can't have, and you don't need to have those kind of things going on. But then if I flip onto the other side, the football-wise, it was absolutely fantastic. It was probably the best country that I've been in terms of football quality, professionalism, quality of players, the seriousness of even the local players, that the local players put into training sessions, into matches, even into their everyday lifestyle. It actually felt... I'm not going to say it felt like for the first time that I was a professional football player, but it just felt like the whole group, as in the whole footballing squad, was there to be professional football players. And it was a fantastic feeling. It was fantastic because it was like myself, but it was like 35 other Aarons, obviously in their own way, because obviously they all do whatever they wanted to do that gets them by. But it was like, okay, when it was time for football practice, it was just football. It wasn't, talking about the weekend or talking about what they did last night or what they're doing on social media. It was nothing like that. Like they obviously, you have your locker room chat, you have all of that. But the second we got onto the football pitch, even if I had a mate and the ball 50-50 was there, we'd go in there to break each other. But then right after training, would be best mates again. And it was like it never happened. Whereas if I was to do that, for example, in Indonesia, which I did every single day because that's who I am, it turns into a fist fight. It turns into a verbal fight. It turns into a sanction. It turns into all of that, then social media gets a part of it. But in India, it was just, I just felt like it was so professionally run from the clubs and obviously from the Indian organization who organized the football. It was fantastic. I loved my time there. And I
Wow,
obviously,
very interesting.
individually anyway, I did well. I was quite successful, had a good tenure there. But yeah, off field, it was very difficult in terms of, I guess, where I was based. Like, obviously, I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
based in one of the main cities. I was based up north, so we stay in the sticks or in the desert, whatever we want to say.
Mm-hmm.
It
Yeah.
was tough. But again, and like I've said, the whole thing, that this whole podcast, sorry, is I sat there, I realized that this isn't going to be easy. I realized I wasn't going to get the nutrition, the lifestyle, whatever I wanted outside of the football pitch. So what did I have to do? I had to tell myself either, okay, I'm going to make this work, or I'm not going to make this work and suffer. As hard as it was for me, as difficult it was mentally and physically, I made it work. And what did that mean? Inevitably,
Mm-hmm.
come football match day, I was able still to perform at a level that I myself was proud of, because at the end of the day, it comes down to me being proud of myself, not about of anybody else. So a level where I felt like I was putting the work in, adapting what I had to do off the pitch to achieve what I wanted to do onto the football pitch.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, it's that solution-based mindset, like we've been talking about the whole time. You just got to make it work. If you want to be successful, you got to make it work. So, like you said from the beginning, so now you're currently in off season, and you're just waiting on your next adventure.
Yeah, that's correct. So I've taken a little bit extra time for my off season this year, because usually I get straight back into it. Obviously, a younger age, things you can do that. Your body
Yes.
can adjust to playing all year round with barely any breaks. Obviously, the older you get and the longer tenure that you have being a professional, like I said, 10 years now, it takes a toll. And even if you don't think it, it takes a toll. So the point I'm at in my career, I've got that realization. I know when I need to take a
Mm-hmm.
little bit longer than I usually do. But the reason
Mm-hmm.
also is because if I take a little bit longer now, I know that my body's going to thank me in 2-3 years down the track, rather
Mm-hmm.
than, just
Exactly.
recycling my body again, going back into a season. Because also, when you're in season, it's very, very difficult, or I shouldn't say it's very difficult, it's more difficult to, strengthen your body. It's more difficult to keep your muscles relaxed, recovered, ready to
Yep.
go. Whereas in off
Yep.
season, that's when you get the chance to become stronger, become fitter, become faster, become more flexible,
Mm-hmm.
become all that. My body needed that, and my body was telling me that. And I live by this. I listen to my body. And if
100%.
my body's telling me that, I'm okay with giving my body what it wants, because I know, okay, I might be off season for a little bit longer, or I might not have that fame that I used to for a longer period, but it's for a reason. It's because my body is
Yeah.
asking me for a rest. So I'm going to listen, I'm going to give it to it, and then my body is going to reward me in the future for what I've allowed it to do in this short-term period.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, it's all about that longevity and thinking into the future. And I think the more you really get into your body, the more you really dive into this stuff, the more you have the ability to listen to it. That being said, I wanted to ask a little bit about, as we're coming towards the end. I don't want to keep you for too much longer, but I see you got a lot of good stuff going on social media. Acero, is that your company, the personal training company, or you guys also do apparel? If you could just tell us a little about your off the field stuff.
So Acero actually is my girlfriend's brand.
Okay, nice.
She's a half business owner.
Wow.
Obviously, she's in the background. There you go. She can hear.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's hers. So I just rep it. I love it.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's in the fitness industry, which
For sure.
I live in a gym anyway. So I basically don't have to pay for a gym membership anymore. But
Yeah.
no. Yeah, so it's hers, but I like to get involved. I like to support it. I like to get the reach out. Like, obviously use my connections where I have it as
Mm-hmm.
well.
Mm-hmm.
She obviously supports my career. me being away, me being abroad. So the least I can do is obviously support hers as well, and, you know, try to give back, try to, you know, get that exposure wherever I can as well. And obviously I'm on a different platform, so I'm hoping that if I can help out in any way, I just do it. But yeah, got a gym, got the apparel, and also got an app as well.
Wow.
That's a fitness app as well. We obviously, you can be in the gym and you can generate your own workout, or even if you don't have equipment and you're just at home, you can generate a workout, or you can have a fixed program, whatever you want to do. Yeah, it's real cool. They've done really well. Really proud of them.
With that being said, just as we end the conversation, I have a lot of young footballers. They ask me, is it possible to have a girlfriend and play professionally? How do I find the right girl? So with that being said, obviously you've played a lot of places. You've had some experience. It's tough, man. Like, it's tough. Like, you can't be a typical guy and go out, 2-3 nights a week, get a drink and look for girls, man. Like, it's different. So what's your advice on that for young footballers listening?
Yeah, so I was actually in that same mind frame as a young lad as well. My dad used to say to me, "No, your girls are a distraction. Can't be with girls. You can't have girlfriends. Blah 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 blah." Even to the extent you can't go out with your friends, all of that kind of stuff. Heard it all, and you believe it. But also, again, everything in your life is meant to happen for a reason. 100%. Girls will come, girls will go, friends will come, friends will go, but inevitably there is, and there always will be, the right person out there for you. And especially if you do become obviously more well-known, majority of the people that come into your life are not actually there for the right reason. They're there to leech off you. They're there to, they're there for something else. Yeah. But look, are they a distraction? No, I don't think so. But I think that you shouldn't go, let's say, out of your tunnel vision or out of your lane to look for
100%.
a girl or to be with a girl just to get that kind of experience. Because if you're doing your thing, if you're, achieving your goals, if you're working towards your dream, people are going to come your way anyway. You meet people on the street. You can meet people filling up petrol. You meet people anywhere. You don't need to meet girls. You don't need to meet them in the nightclub. You don't need to meet them on social media. You walk past hundreds of girls a day. You walk past hundreds of men in whatever way you fancy a day. So it's not like you have to go to these parties or be on social media to get these interactions with a girl. They're going to come. They're going to come regardless. So stick to your plan, stick to your goal. They'll come. And also, it's like you have a goal, you have a dream, you've decided that. Same with the people that come into your life. You know if it's the right partner for you. And if they are the right partner for you, they're going to help, they're going to support, they're going to push you through your whole process. They're not going to be a distraction. They're not going to be the one to say, "Oh, come out partying, come out drinking." They're going to be the one to be like, "Oh, okay, you've got to rest. You've got to eat this. You've got to recover. You've got to do all of this." So I think having a girlfriend is also a fantastic, this is going to sound bad, but a fantastic tool to have in your toolbox as well, because you can lean on her when times are tough. She's there when the good, she's there for the bad, pre-game, post-game, all of that. Everything is all there for you.
All right, ladies and gents. So unfortunately, I think Aaron cut out. That's the tough part of doing this stuff online. But as you heard, it was a fantastic conversation. This guy fully embodies what it takes to be a professional. So I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Let's see if he's getting back on here. I'll drop his link below. And most importantly, I want to visit Australia sometime soon. So we'll do an in-person pod and get this going. Make sure you click one of these 2 videos right here to stay up to date with the best football development channel here on YouTube. Stay safe, stay healthy. Deuces.